Hey everybody, this is Piet Sielck of Iron Saver, and you're listening to Rockum Radio.
How are you doing today?
Well, today, looking out the window today, here in Hamburg, it's more autumn than the mid of the summer. The weather actually is pretty shitty, and I'm invited to a garden party later on, so could be better, but I wear a warm jacket, and then I'll be fine, I guess.
Okay. Where are you joining us from right now?
So I'm right here. I'm in my studio. This is my workplace, powerhouse.
This is in Germany.
Yeah, this is Germany. This is where the magic is happening. This is where all the Iron Savior stuff is getting done.
Oh, beautiful guitars. I love that green one.
Actually, the green one is a pretty cheap one. It's a Harley Benton.
I don't.
But it's a very nice guitar. It's rather cheap.
Yeah, that's
the green one. That's a Flying V. Besides that, then we have the Solar LP, and I have a couple of other guitars. But the green one, actually, I can recommend it. It's a very good guitar. If you don't want to invest too much money, go check out Harley Benton. You can save a lot of bucks. I mean, this guitar is I paid $500 for it, but it's if it would be, well, let's say a big brand, it would be easily $1,000 or $1,500.
beautiful color, huh? Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. The finish is great. I love it.
Well, Machine World is finally out today. Congratulations.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, checking the internet, of course, getting some reactions from the fans, and so far, thumbs up, I'd say.
How does it feel to share this album with the fans at last?
Well, I mean, it's a special Reforged album because it's going to be the last one. The trilogy now is closed. There are no more noise record songs left that could be put on a Reforged album. So, and since bringing back this noise catalog to the fans was the main issue for those re-recordings that were happening on Reforged. It is a special moment that now this comes to an end, and And I think I have to admit that I really think that this last Reforged album is, for me personally, it's the best of the three. I mean, of course, the first one has all of the big stuff on it, like Atlantis Falling, Riding on Fire, Watcher in the Sky. The second one also, I mean, all the big hits that wouldn't fit on the first one are on the second one. And on the last one, on this third album, it's not it's the not so common songs, I'd say, that you find here. But since Iron Savior never has done any bad songs in almost 30 years band history, it's a great album full of great songs. And it was a great feeling to put my hands on that again, do a little twitching and twisting here, turn some knobs here and there, finalizing things that maybe 30 years ago weren't possible, or I just wasn't able to do so. And yeah, I'm proud that today I can deliver a really fine piece of metal to the fans out there.
Whoa, wow. That sounds great. Pete, what inspired you to close the Reforged trilogy in this third part now?
Well, as the answer is very as simple as easy. There are no songs left over from the noise era.
Okay.
The main idea, as I pointed out earlier, is that for all the re-recordings on all Reforged albums, we were to bring back the songs as physical to the fans, as CDs or vinyl, because that was not possible. We don't have the rights for the original noise record songs.
Yes.
We don't own these rights, and so therefore we cannot re-release, let's say, Unification or so. It's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
And since there are no physical copies anymore available from Unification, I mean, if you search the internet, of course you find some used one, but no freshly released or fresh pressed items are available. We decided in 2000, I think 17 it was, where we started out with the first Reforged album, that we want to re-record, to create new recordings of those songs where we own the right and can reissue them to the fans,
Okay.
so that the fans are now again have the possibility to buy a physical product. They can buy a CD with
Okay.
Riding on Fire on it. They can buy a CD with Watcher in the Sky on it, which was not possible before that. So that is the main issue for the Reforged trilogy. And now with this third album, all songs from the Noise era, where we don't have legal control, are covered. So there's no need to re-record
Got it.
any further. So there will be no re-recording for, let's say, Heavy Metal Never Dies or whatever, because we have full legal control about that. We can do whatever. We can re-record, but we can also remix or do whatever we want to, because we have control of this. But for those songs, we didn't have control.
Oh my God, the thing of the rights is difficult sometimes, no?
Yes, it is. And sometimes it's hard to understand for the fans as well, because some fans, of course, think, it's just a way to make money again with something old. No, it's not. I mean, it's really the other way around. Because, of course, we do make some money with selling records, of course. I mean, I'm an artist. That's what I'm living from. A baker sells bread, and a musician sells music. So nothing wrong with that, I'd say. And I think I prefer, honestly, to re-record songs in general, not only with Reforged, than just to manipulate, do remastering or stuff like that. Remastering. I mean, what is remastering? I mean, you put in a little bit more high end, a little bit more low end, and that's the mastering, and it's basically the same. So, but digging into the ground and going back to the scratch, maybe just like on Reforged, changing the arrangement, and optimizing a song is a completely different challenge, and that's, as a musician and producer, is what I prefer.
Sure. Did you always plan for 3 parts, or did that last one come later?
No, it was always planned to be like a trilogy, because there were like, I know how many songs on this album from the Noise record era are, and so it was an easy example of math to see how many albums we need to do that, And so it was always clear that it will be 3 albums, and that's it.
Yes, you produce, mix, master it, and even design the artwork yourself. How personal did this album become for you?
Well, I mean, it's absolutely super personal. Also, I mean, when I recorded the specific songs, I mean, all those songs, they come from specific times in my life, And of course, I also like anybody else, I have memories connected to the songs. What happened, in what life situation I have been, in what emotional state I have been when I wrote that song, or when I recorded this vocal, the original vocals and stuff like that. And it was in a way was something like a time travel, to revisit all this when reworking the songs here. And so, yeah, it's super personal, because I mean, every song I write, there's always a lot of Piet in there. I mean, also the music, and especially also in the lyrics. And so, yes, I mean, I necessarily don't tell everybody what I think about my lyrics, because I think it's also great to have your own interpretation of what lyrics could mean to you, So, but of course, I have a special idea for each song. What was moving me? What was the basic idea behind it? What was the state of mind I was in? How was my mood? Was I in a good mood? Was it? Did I face depression, or was I happy, or whatever? So yeah, the album is every Iron Savior album, very personal.
And was it more freedom or more pressure doing it all alone?
No, it was more. It's actually, I worked pretty well when I'm on my own. Yeah, I mean, I know, but sometimes I really like to get some input, but for this, I had a pretty good plan, because all those songs um, were there already. I was not. It was not the question to create something entirely new. It was just a question to just to tweak something, to eliminate something that was not good and exchange it to something that now works better, or enhance everything a little bit. And well, when I'm here at the studio doing my studio magic, I do that usually alone on my own. And so yeah, that it was basically done on my own.
Amazing. Is there any track that surprised you when we
Oh
were?
yeah, absolutely. There was the track "Eye of the World," taken from the original. It was original. It was on the Dark Assault album,
Uh-huh.
and and I think in general the Dark Assault songs, they contributed or they benefit the most from the Reforged thing. Yeah, "Eye of the World." It's the first single, exactly. And I think the Dark Assault songs, they benefit the most from the Reforged process, because I never was happy with Dark Assault. When I did that, I
Mhm.
was very much into this big drum sound with there was lots of room drum samples on the bass drum, and the drum is just huge, with lots of reverbs and stuff like that, which I found cool when I was mixing the album. But already a year later, I wasn't happy with that, because it is working in a way, but I didn't like it anymore. And so ever since, I was not so happy with Dark Assault. And so over the time, now having the chance to rework all these Dark Assault songs was great. Now coming back to Eye of the World, this was the only and very only song, I have to admit, on Iron Savior. When I released it, I wasn't sure about. It was the only song where I said, maybe it's a so-called album song, a song that it's not good enough to stand on its own. It needs an album around him so that it works, So you could call it a filler, because because the song wasn't really working for me, It's not a bad song, but somehow it never kicked in. And at the time I could not figure out why, and I gave up on it, and I said, okay, it's on the album now, fuck on it. And now, almost 30 years later, I found out what it is. It's the drum arranged, and it's the arrangement. It's not the song itself. The melodies are great on it. The riff is cool and everything, but the way it is arranged was not good, and that turned a good song into a good song that it's not working out. And I think now the new version of Eye of the World really is a killer song. I have to admit, I love Eye of the World. It's one of my favorite songs from the Reforged now, and so that is something really amazing. A song, that was originally for me a filler, now made it to be the first single for this one. That's something that's a good development for this song, I'd say.
And well, I like the album. I listened to all in. It's really good. Another question is Machine World. Machine World was almost the title of Battlefield Ram, right? In
Yeah.
2004. What does it mean to finally give it center stage after 20 years later?
Oh yeah, that was a good feeling, actually, because in the beginning, when I was starting out with Reforged #3, the basic idea, the first idea was to name the album "Never Say Die,"
Mhm.
because "Never Say Die" also is a great track, and well, it sounded to me like a good album track, a good album title as well. "Never Say Die" also would have worked pretty nice, but well, when I started the recording process, and when I came back to this to the battering Ram songs like "Time Will Tell," "Machine World," and well, "Wings of Deliverance," um, I was blown away again from this epic storyline that I created with Battering Ram, with this machine mind living in solitude for 1,000,000 years underneath the desert, contemplating about reality, And so I thought, I'm getting goosebumps again. So I thought, wow, yeah, the story is so epic, and Machine World now needs to be the title of this last Reforged album. And I think it was a brilliant idea. I love the title.
Yes, Iron Saber has always explored science fiction. How do you Machine War and Contortion of Time reflect that universe today?
Well, I mean, Contortions of Time is it's taken from the Interlude album, which was a hybrid album mixed. It was half studio recordings and the other half was live recordings. People didn't get that album too much. For one, it was, but anyways, it was taken from that album, and it also has a little storyline along with that. Actually, the storyline that leads to Dark Assault, and but it's not connected to Machine World. Machine World is a different storyline. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, in general speaking, I love science fiction, of course, and I love having storylines to go along with the Iron Savior albums. But those two songs are not connected with each other. The only thing is that they are all science fiction and they all play in the Iron Savior universe, so to speak,
And Piet, do you see them as stories or metaphor for real life?
Both. I see them as stories, like action movies, or but it's also, but as a singer, I always have to interpret my lyrics, so I cannot sing just crappy lyrics with stupid lines, that with great sounding words, which without meaning. That's not possible for me, So I always, when I write a lyric, if it's about science fiction or real life, it actually doesn't matter. It always reflects my mood, my feelings, my emotions. So it's both, it's telling a story, but it's telling a story through my eyes, and how little Pete sees and feels the world.
Okay. Sounds like Stone Cold or Time Will Tell touch on loneliness and survival, right?
Oh yeah, of course, sure.
How important is it for you to balance epic sci-fi with personal emotion?
Super important. I mean, at the beginning, when I started out with Iron Savior, the focus was more on, telling the story, and like creating an action movie or an epic science fiction adventure, But now, I mean, I'm 60 years old now, and I have gained some life experience. With 60 years, I mean, I have experienced. I saw a lot in life. I saw good things. I saw bad things, and of course, those things evolved me as a person. I'm not the same Pete that I was 30 years ago, And so when I write lyrics today, I go more for the emotional side, I focus more on the feelings, and I mean, solitude and loneliness is always something that is tempting me, but also happiness and love is also, I mean, it's big emotions, So for me, emotion is nowadays more important than the story, I have to admit.
Okay. You include a cover of Judas Priest's Starbreaker. Why this track, and how did you make it sound like Iron Saber?
Well, I mean, it sounds like Iron Savior because I sing it. Whenever I sing something, it sounds like Iron Savior. I have a very specific voice, and if you know Iron Savior and if you know my voice, you recognize right away. It's Pete. It's a good thing, but also can be a bad thing. You have to decide for yourself, But I think that is one reason why Starbreaker, performed by me, sounds like Iron Savior and not like Priest. And why Starbreaker? It was something that was on my to-do list. I had this idea many years ago, because I always liked Starbreaker, the original one from the Sin After Sin album. I think it's one of the. It's not so common, you know. I mean, the tracks you have in mind, of course, are Sin After Sin, Sinner, you know, and I think what else is on there, Destined Aggressor, and all that kind of stuff, but not necessarily Starbreaker. But I always loved this chorus line, "Starbreaker riding from the sky." I love that. I think the melody is great, and
I love it
and
too.
also. Yeah, and also in the end, when Rob really goes into the super high pitch, that was a challenge for me if I can somehow do it. And yeah, I think I managed a little bit at least.
Wow. Pete, beyond the music, you also create the album's artwork. What do you want to capture visually with Machine War?
Well, I mean, with nowadays, of course, I have to admit, of course, I'm not. It's not that I sit down and I draw something. You know, I'm not an artist. I'm not a painter. You know, but of course, yeah. But I had to create. But I'm a creator. I have ideas, and I can use tools. You know, to get to a result that fits my needs. And that happened and of course nowadays, of course, I'm using AI. Of course, you know, I'm not drawing these pictures myself, but it's a matter of how you feed AI. And I have a very clear mind about how this machine world is supposed to look. It's a desert planet. It's a planet, you know, where somewhere in the Andromeda Nebula. It's basically inhabited by machines. There are ruins of an old destroyed civilization, and so on and so forth. You know, and having that in mind, I was able to create this. You know, of course. And then besides that, I have some graphic knowledge, you know, I can handle Photoshop and stuff like that. And of course, AI didn't spit out it this way, you know, but it put out the general things, so to speak, the general items, you know, and then I created them and assorted them, put them together, did a little something here, a little something there, put in a nebula there, you know, and stuff like that. Put in the planet and everything, you know, just like another artwork designer also would do that. But I don't want this to become a full-time job. But for Iron Savior, it was fun doing it, and I might do it again. But I might also ask somebody else next time to do it.
Okay. Iron Savior is close to 30 years old.
Yeah.
Looking back at the 1997 debut and today's Reforged Machine War, what has changed the most and what has stayed the same? Well,
I mean, I think the basic idea of Iron Savior has pretty much stayed the same. I mean, it sounds, I don't want it to sound arrogant, but or to be misunderstood, but Iron Savior for me is the top notch. This is the way I, Pete, see heavy metal. If I would see heavy metal differently than Iron Savior, then I would be doing something wrong with Iron Savior. So for me, Iron Savior is the 100 definition of my personal heavy metal taste, you know. And of course that hasn't changed. And so maybe because my taste about metal has not changed too much in the last 30 years, also Iron Savior didn't change too much, you know. I have a specific idea about how songwriting should be done, how the guitars should sound, how the drum has to pound and everything. You know, I have that in my mind, and I always, of course, I evolve. Of course, I'm not standing still, you know, because standing still is going backwards. Of course, I evolve with the time, and if you listen to the latest production, it sounds different than on the debut album, of course. But I think the main attitude, what I want to do, that is always the same. It's only now that I have more knowledge and better tools than 30 years ago.
So, would you say that original spirit is still alive?
Oh yes, of course. I mean, yeah. I mean, the original recordings and the original the first years, and I mean every period in Iron Savior is important to me. There are more important periods like the let's say, the first years when everything was starting out. The debut album and the unification album, but another very, very, very super important album for Iron Savior was The Landing. After it was something like a comeback album for us. And also another very important album I have to name is the last one, Firestar, which was released only a couple of days after my cancer surgery. So that's also a very, very important album for me. Yeah.
Okay. Are you feeling good now?
Yeah, I feel good now. Yeah.
This summer, you already played shows in Germany, like Cubana, Seeking High Rock, Dacha Open Air. How was it reconnected with fans at home?
Oh, it's great. I mean, we also love, of course, to play in front of international fans, but of course, it's something different if you can talk to the people in your mother language. Of course. I do speak English quite well, but I mean, if, for example, if we go to Spain or to Italy, not necessarily everybody who comes to Iron Savior shows speaks perfect English, So it's always there's always a little language barrier, and that of course you don't have in your own country. So you can make jokes and stuff like that, and everybody will understand. Well, not everybody, but most of the people will understand the jokes, and you can play game of words and stuff like that. That is also we do that in English as well, but not necessarily everybody picks it up. So playing in front of German audience and speaking in our mother language, of course, makes this easier.
Of course. How does it feel to present these reimagined songs live compared to when you first played them 20 years ago?
Well, I mean, I think now, let's say, put it differently. I always liked to perform live, but 30 years ago, it was always a struggle for me, because I was young and wild and I was screaming like hell, and after 30 minutes, and I had no technique at all. And after 30 minutes, all my power was gone already. And I was really fighting my way through the rest of the gig, and I don't know. And nowadays, I have no problem in singing 90 minutes and do it the next day and then the day after again and again and again. I have evolved pretty much as a vocalist, and that, of course, makes me feel a lot more comfortable on stage, because you can imagine if you have the feeling, oh God, I can't sing anymore, you don't feel very good, and you look at the watch, oh man, it's still 45 minutes left and I can't breathe. Now, and of course, these days I also get, I sweat, and it's also work for me to do that on stage, but I have a far better technique these days, and that's why I usually have no problems in performing 90 minutes pretty good, I would say, and that makes me feel very, very comfortable on stage, and I even perform live better and like it better than 30 years ago.
Today's concerts are very different with the streaming and young fans discovering the band for the first time. How do you see the new connection in 2025?
Streaming, let's put it like this. If the streaming, if Spotify and co would pay artists adequately, then streaming would be a good thing, But like this, without, because you barely get paid. I mean, it's a joke what you earn for streaming. It's only the streaming platforms that make really money with streams, not the artists. And for bigger artists, it might be no problem because they sell enough records. So for them, it's something like a promotional tool, or so that they get known or whatever, or they get so many streams that in the end it's still enough for them. But for regular artists, the streaming is a good thing, but it has changed the market completely. Because 15 years ago, you had to go to a record store and buy a record or a CD, you know. And these days you can just you can just open Spotify, and you can open this not even premium Spotify. The pay for that is even lower than on regular Spotify. And the only person who does not benefit from it is the creator and the artist, because so that is something that I don't like. I like the idea that music is available like this. That's fine, but I think the pricing is totally unfair.
Most musicians complain about that. Exactly, that's the income.
But the problem is that, for example, what options would I have? I am Piet Sielck. I am compared to other artists. I'm a small heavy metal artist. If I withdraw my stuff from Spotify, Spotify doesn't care, you know. So there's there's really nothing I can do about it, you know. I can only hurt myself if I withdraw my stuff from Spotify. So that's why in the end I don't do it, and that is in the end why most of the artists are not doing it. You know, they rather howl with the wolves instead. You know, and it's better the devil you know than nothing or whatever. So and there is no, and the problem is that there is no, let's say, union or so. You know, there is nothing that artists can do against this big player, Spotify or what else, you know. But coming back to your initial question, of course, not necessarily Spotify, but of course, social media is a good way to connect with fans worldwide. You know, that of course, when going back like 20 years or so, was not possible without Facebook. It was not possible to have a communication or a small little chat with somebody from Chile or whatever, or Tibet or Japan or whatever, you know. And that of course is a good thing. I love that. I mean, there's lots of bad stuff you can say about Facebook, and there's really a lot of stuff I hate about Facebook. But in the end, I think it's a good tool to communicate and to stay in contact and experience metal together.
Exactly. Pete, if someone has never heard Iron Saber, which track from this album should they start with, and why?
Well, they should grab the last one, Firestar. They should grab the Landing and the Unification album. I think with those three albums, you cover pretty much what Iron Savior is all about.
Wow! And finally, what message would you like to give to the Rockum audience and the fans around the world tuning in today?
Well, I mean, I mentioned my cancer, which I had 2 years ago, and I really wanted to use the opportunity again to thank all the fans, because I made it public on Facebook. We just talked about that. That was a good thing. I was talking openly about it, and it was incredible how much good vibrations and how much positive energy I have been receiving through the fans. And since it cannot be said often enough, it really helped me to overcome this. You know, it really gave me energy, and it really made me feel good. And so therefore, that's probably also one reason why I'm sitting here talking with you. And yeah, thank you for that. And besides that, you should never forget that heavy metal never dies, of course.